Wait for it. Wait for it. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans, it's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction, although tonight mostly that's the Stabby clan. And without further ado, before they kill each other, we're going to start the podcast. Woohoo! All right. We have a lovely panel here, and we're going to go in no special order because I'm just going to go from left to right in the middle where the cool kids are hanging out. We have the one, the only Mr. Jay Barnson. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers, please?
Okay, I'm Jay Barnson. I'm author of about 7 novels right now, including the Blood Creek Witch, which I think is the reason I'm here tonight. Formerly, I worked in the video games industry ever since the ancient PlayStation days, so I'm an old fart. So
you don't get to call yourself old until you went to an arcade to play, things like Pong.
Excitebike.
I actually went to the video game museum out in Texas, and they had games I had created on display there at a museum.
Did they try to make you an exhibit?
Now I'm trying to remember. It's the National Video Game Museum and I've forgotten the name of the town.
Hold on, I'm just going to look it up. I just figured I'd get it from the source.
While we pretend that he knew that all along and he's just testing Nick, we're going to let Miss Jenna S. Brown, otherwise known as Jenna Ray, who has a bunch of personalities. She has so many that it got confusing, so we limited her to 2 per podcast.
I know, and it's such a bummer. But yes, I'm Janet S. Brown. I write science fiction, fantasy, and urban fantasy under Jenna Ray, and I just put the 17th book in the can, so that is going to come out in October, and I'm so glad to have it done. And yes, I'm here to talk about things that are wicked and wonderful.
Outstanding. And last but not least, we have the one, the only Maddie Stabby Jr. lady. She will cut you, but nicer.
I don't know. It depends.
Don't like it.
I'm Maddie. Like I said last time, depends on what order you're watching this in. I'm a screenwriter. Oh my gosh. And I'm going to be better than Wes Craven and Tim Burton.
Outstanding.
Oh, right. We're adding Tim Burton.
She's humble. Everyone says so. The most humble girl around. So Nick, when we get merch now, you have to have Stabby with a knife and then a mini-me Stabby with a knife. And that can be like a terrible duo for the merch. I'm picturing it.
And I'm just going to have me with my ball cap backwards, and they're both stabbing me.
Cowering in the corner. Like, no, please.
Hugging each other.
Yeah. So many ideas.
I support that.
All right, so we're going to do the religion question next, and we're going to start with Jay, since he has not answered them before. Are you ready to defend yourself, sir?
Okay. Let's go for it.
All right, we've got the religion question of all religion questions. Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
Oh, these days I'm going to have to go with Firefly.
Okay. Brown coat or Unification Day crowd?
Brown coat crowd.
Okay, that's the right answer.
We're all just folk now.
Right.
How many people answer Unification?
Losers.
I'm guessing on that.
Has anyone done that?
Morons.
I mean,
Nobody
that's
still here
at all, so.
I'm just saying the people that did have never been seen again. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything bad happened to them, but they just quietly vanished into the ether.
I'm going to make Stab watch the whole season.
She has not watched it, so that will be a react video we're going to do at some point in the near future.
All right, this is like a podcast
Binge that,
I've
man.
seen or been a part of where Stabby is still yet to watch Firefly.
So she has a lot going on.
I still haven't watched Lord of the Rings.
She has a lot going on.
Get behind that. They're like 25 hours long each. I'm asking about Firefly.
LaVoice, there's important stuff going on in the background. She's actually got some issues. Maybe she stabbed a neighbor. Body's disappeared, but she accidentally left a fingerprint. It was a whole ordeal. Cops came, had to scare them away. So she's been distracted.
We're not the Winchesters, man.
So I honestly think that my next door neighbors did cut up a body the other night.
Allegedly, in a video game. In a video game. All right.
To
And
me,
because
but I was hearing saws. I'm just saying.
maybe Maddie was over there trying to, work on her movie perfection. That's all.
No, because she would have come and given me a hug afterwards. Left some DNA.
Maybe she stabs first and then hugs.
No, I would have come and given her a hug first.
Oh, that's mighty nice of you before you stab people. All right, and because we are polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings.
See, it's always the same answer because it is the best.
We got to change those.
We got to change it.
We gotta
You
mix
need
it
no
up.
questions.
We need our viewers, because the other ones haven't aired yet. Our viewers are going to weigh in on what they think the third should be to go with the iconic Game of Thrones and Wheel of Time. And then, because we are not knuckle-dragging troglodytes, we are civilized human beings now that we left the army. Coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
Herbal tea, straight.
Okay, and LaVoice, you think you got away with it last time because we did not ask you how classy you were, but coffee or tea, or and how do you take it?
What does that have to do with class?
I am not sure we are going to keep Stabby happy because she doesn't stab me when she's happy.
Okay.
Thank you, Dad.
All right. She can't get me through the screen. I don't care. But oh wait, I
Are
forgot.
you sure?
IP addresses can be tracked.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Huh?
and I've seen the movies. The kid goes into the TV and comes out on your side. I mean, there are no guarantees, man.
Step into the light.
It's the season.
No, but I have a predator on station.
It's for me, it's
That's
coffee.
the drone, people. He meant the drone, not the other kind of predator. That's a separate episode where he goes against the aliens.
Nip the side from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
So I have invited, this is a plot twist, and there's no pressure on them because they might be busy people, but we have invited the people that run the Alien versus Predator official wiki site on to come and get nerdy with us about the topic. And maybe Stabby will try not to embarrass them too bad.
Sweet.
JR, he still didn't answer the question.
I did answer the question. Y'all were just talking over me.
Oh,
We do
he just told us to
And I
stand in the
appreciate you for
corner.
calling us out.
Yeah, do it. Okay, so tell us again for those that are slow in the back,
Coffee, black.
like your
Like your
soul.
soul.
Okay, all
No,
right.
no more army coffee though, because I'm too tired to chew.
Fair.
Yeah.
Nobody wants a sludge.
And nobody wants the Folgers dip no more. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that. We got Copenhagen.
That's right. And good cigarettes.
The teeth pretty.
And speaking of coffee, we have most excellent coffee brand coffee, bourbon flavored coffee. And if you see us adding stuff to it, mind your business. It's just water.
Oh yeah, I got to order the mug.
Can you order the blueberry coffee for me, please?
We'll see how this show
Just
goes.
remember, we'll put it in the comment section and come back to it later. But podcaster on
Depends on how much he bleeds later.
It's true. It's true.
Well,
it
as
takes
much as
blood
I
in your
drink,
body.
probably
All right.
just-
The next part of the
It's like I
Stabby.
got to clean this one.
Ooh. All right, so the next part we have to tell you, dear listeners, how we found them, and this is easy. One of them is related to the Stabby clan, and the other three came through Three Ravens because I was just stalking them, and I'm like, you will come, or I will tell Hillbilly on you, and that's the rest is history. I threatened to call Dad. That's what I did.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
He ain't
Ain't
my
nobody
dad.
wants to get involved in that.
I'm with Athon. Fight me.
But you're with Hillbilly too. You're like
We just kinda
double
hang
dipping.
out. I was kind of they're more fun to hang out with than the Athon writers.
So what you're saying
Can I say
is
that out loud?
your
Yeah,
publishing house fluid. Is that what you're telling us?
No,
Hey!
actually, no wait. Now you remember Peter Stanley
Uh-huh.
from Three Ravens? He and I are actually working on a collabo right now. We're in the world building stage right now. So we'll see what comes
Fun.
in.
Fun times. Time zones are going to be a pain in the butt. We had to reschedule a couple times because I don't know if you know this, but on the inside of the world, on the magma core where he lives, it's super annoying time differentials.
He keeps sending me video call requests through Messenger when I'm at work. I'm like,
Time zones, man, they're deadly. All right, so the first part of this is everybody who can read the title knows we're talking about creature feature. So let's start off with the easy question. What qualifies as a creature?
Maddie.
Maddie? How a terrible thing to say
Maddie.
about her. Oh, Oh, you're asking.
Maddie is a
You guys
no,
are
Maddie
so
is a creature.
terrible. You guys are terrible. I'm not answering this. You guys always make me answer first.
Because
That's
we don't
'cause
want
it's
you to
funny.
hide in a corner. Nobody puts
You
baby in a
want to try
corner.
to hide in the corner?
I'm
Nobody
already
puts Maddie
in the corner. I'm already in the corner.
Oh,
I'm technically in the corner.
gloves
Are
are
you? Are
off.
you really?
Here's the story.
Oh, now
Well,
she's
let-
in the middle.
Now you're in the middle.
Wait, did we just put her in the like housekeeper role in the middle? Isn't that where the housekeeper was?
Yes, that's where
Center
Alice goes.
Square.
Yeah.
Center Square. That's double worth or double money.
She is the dishwasher.
I'll let Stabby answer this because she always wants me to
Hey,
answer
Nick, you know
everything
you're
so
muted, right?
badly.
Oh,
Yeah,
Stabby,
I'm
you've been
talking
called
through.
out.
Stabby's mic.
Okay. What was the question?
What qualifies as a creature? Does it have to be
Oh.
mythical cryptoid, or could it be just a really angry dog, a la Cujo?
Cujo
Cujo
is
counted.
definitely a creature
But he's just a really angry dog. So what makes a creature
got
something
rabies.
different?
because he's a creature. But you also have the Mummy, the Swamp Thing, Freddy Krueger, Pennywise. I mean, it really depends on how they became the creature. That definitely, I think that has a little say in it. Or like, okay, hold on.
Wait,
Let me smile.
officially,
Let me back up.
who was the first the creature?
From
I'm just thinking Frankenstein now.
Absolutely.
right,
Yeah,
He was
Frankenstein.
never called Frankenstein in the book.
Yeah.
It was the creature.
The creature. Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
Was
The creature.
Frankenstein was the
was
doctor.
Miss Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Didn't that come before Frankenstein? Wouldn't that be the first?
They're contemporaries.
Well, I was actually going for just the name, the creature. So,
Oh,
He was the creature, yeah.
mhm.
I have to go look
Okay.
it
Ah.
up. Talk amongst yourselves.
I
If
think
we're if we're talking movies, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was made in 1931. So
he did research before. The rest of us are just pulling it out of our old, rotten, shriveled brains because we're ancients.
yeah, right out the ears. No, I think when it comes to creature features, it is a feeling. It's not so human. I think that's really what it is. It's not, a guy that wants revenge or is homicidal or psychotic or, Michael Myers. Thinking of creatures.
speaking of
But
dog
I think-
creatures,
Yeah, dog creatures. My mini Cujo back there. But I think it's less human and more. I want to say mythical because I also think aliens qualifies for creatures and predators.
definitely.
So I think it would have to be really anything that's just less human and more animalistic. Is like even because Frankenstein is kind of humanoid, but he was put together by a human.
Spare parts.
Mhm. Yeah, he was a spare
Oh.
part, so
Yeah,
Spare
he,
parts,
he-
all
he
that.
would not qualify as human.
Yeah, it's definitely a good question. I think because
Post-human.
like, what does qualify as a creature?
That's where we assemble the NCOs, the spare body parts of dead GIs. at NCO.
no.
True story.
I would say for me,
What
it's,
about this though? What about the dinosaur as a monster, like Jurassic Park? And
Yeah.
God, countless monster movies from back in the day. I remember watching The Lost World on Saturday mornings,
well, yeah.
and just, as a little kid, and just terrified that a T-Rex was going to gobble me up. So I think they
Yeah.
count.
I would say something
No,
not
it's a-
human and uncanny.
Mhm.
So when
What
does
about
an
the
animal
monsters you don't
cross
see?
over? When does an animal cross over to become a creature? So you're in the woods and you see a bear. A bears belong in the woods. Yeah, it's scary, but it's not a creature feature. When does that bear become a creature?
When he does a bunch of cocaine.
When he does
He beat you to
cocaine.
He got me. He got there first.
Jokes aside, when does Cujo go from just being a dog to all of a sudden it's a creature?
Once he got rabies.
So every rabid animal now is a creature, or is there
Absolutely.
something?
Tangled with a rabid possum in your backyard at 2 a.m. Guaranteed.
I have not.
Creature.
Actually, the possum in my backyard's name is Samson, but
Oh, I love possums generally to be around because they eat roaches. But anything that destroys the roach population from the sewers around here, I'm all for it. But when they're rabid, they will just run you down and climb up your leg with those needle teeth.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I
So the
think a lot of
honey
it's presentation. How is it? If it's a rabid possum that's attacking Michael Levois there, then I'm not really concerned about it. But when it's a rabid possum hiding in my house coming after me, suddenly it becomes a creature, and I'm
Had
terrified.
that experience too. Opened a cabinet one night. And
Oh shoot!
this is why I keep off the
interaction
sharp
matters.
ponytail. What?
But I use the term uncanny, and I don't know if it's necessarily the right one, but when the disease takes it to the level where it's not normal, it's unnatural, it becomes terrifying. That's
like zombies.
Creature. Yeah,
Zombies.
zombies.
Zombies are the newest incarnation of them, or what? They're controlled by a virus, right?
Right.
They're just inanimate flesh controlled by a virus in the brain.
Yeah.
Well, then if we're going to talk zombies, then and we're talking humanoid, then we can't leave out Chud.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah.
I don't even know what Chud is.
Oh, cannibalism for humanoid underground dwellers.
Yes.
Yep.
So do you need malevolent intent for it to be a creature, or is it just
not necessarily? Not necessarily.
Yeah, I was thinking about this because tribbles definitely creatures, not scary unless they're eating all of your triticale.
Well, yeah, but look at the movie Gremlins. Gremlins were interesting because they had the potential to be a monster, but only under certain conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So up until that point, they're mogwais and they're cute little fuzzy things.
Okay, does that mean that there's a difference between creatures and monsters? Are creatures the one level, and monsters is when it takes on that aspect of evil or attacking, or somehow negative in our minds? Because you could do dragons the same way. Dragons,
yeah, you could. Because
dragons bad. Are they monsters and creatures?
Hmm.
And I found the thing. Shelley wins 1818. Jekyll and Hyde wasn't until 1886. Just because you wanted to know, and I went and found.
Question: have any of the Frankenstein movies won an Oscar? Because the original Hyde from Jekyll and Hyde did. Friedrich March.
I don't
think so.
Hey, I didn't know Nick was fighting the IRS, but you got pictures of.
Yeah.
Always.
Did he win?
I'm not in jail, so yeah.
Oh, I think I dated her on the right. Wow, you got a picture.
How to get a picture of him with his ex?
Oh,
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
There's creatures.
Interestingly enough, now, on the top 10, the top 10 list, it was longer than top 10. IMDb does have a top 10 list, but the Creature from the Black Lagoon didn't make the top 10. The Mummy didn't make the top 10.
What?
And Lon Chaney's Wolfman was like number 33. I think those are horrible omissions from the top 10.
Like Gen Z reviewing these?
I have no idea who did
What made the top 10?
Well, I'll tell you.
Twilight, probably.
The Fly.
Number 10, while it's not the classic Wolfman, now these are the top 10 monster movies according to IMDb. The top 10 was number 10 was An American Werewolf in London.
All right.
That's a good movie.
That was like forever. That was my favorite werewolf movie. That was a great werewolf movie. Number 9 was Godzilla.
Which one?
The original Tokyo Godzilla stomping through the model city wearing a rubber suit movies. Number 8 was The Evil Dead.
Okay.
So that's zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7 was the 1931 version of Frankenstein starring Boris Karloff as the creature. But what did you guys think about other takes on that monster though, like De Niro in The Bride?
I like De Niro's.
I thought De Niro's creature was a lot closer to the book.
Yeah,
I found it really compelling. Of course, then there's always Peter Boyle's Young Frankenstein.
Where did Jaws land on the list?
Thing. Keep going. What else is on the list?
All right, well, let's see. Number 7, that was okay. Number 6, King Kong. The original King Kong.
1930.
Fay Ray.
His favorite movie.
Right. And now they went into the top 5 and this is why I asked earlier about monsters you can't actually see. The Thing came in at number 5.
That's a good one.
The Thing, you never saw the actual monster. Now, interestingly enough, though, in the short story that the movie was based on, the original sci-fi magazine that published it had a description of the creature of the Thing in the story, but it didn't really translate well to film. So number 4 on their list was Alien. And I definitely agree with that. I think it should have been higher on the list. That movie scared the bejeebus out of me. It was awesome. Number 3 on the list was Cat People, and this is the 1942 version.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Tasha Krinsky or whatever her name was do a remake of that. Yeah, in the 80s.
80s, early 80s.
Okay. Number 2 was Jaws. Speaking of
there we go.
With monstrous intent. Hello, my name is Bruce. So yeah. Then number 1 on their list was The Fly, and that was the Jeff Goldblum version, not the original black.
That is a good one.
You can't have creature features without The Fly.
No, you can't. Obviously.
But
so that was their top 10. They left off one that I thought was another interesting unseen monster, and this is one I wanted to bring up because it seems to be there's this line of demarcation between people that don't like scary movies and people that do like scary movies. And I generally don't. I really don't. I like monster movies because they're funny to me. I get a laugh. But the Blair Witch Project, the original Blair Witch Project, people that like scary movies say it was the dumbest thing ever put on film. I couldn't go into a tree line for 6 months after seeing that stupid movie.
I did not like Blair Witch Project at all.
My wife hated it. She hated every minute. This is so dumb.
I spite watched it because I had never finished it, and Nick kept telling me, "You gotta finish it. You gotta finish it. It's so good." And I spite watched it, and by the end, I was like, "Yeah, it's still dumb."
It made me dizzy. I got done with it and didn't finish.
Yeah, that was my problem with it. The shaky cam meant that it didn't matter whether it was scary or not. I was too sick watching it to care. It was like, nope, I'm done.
But if we're going to talk the difference between horror creature features and like less
sci-fi,
let's say more sci-fi, and there's on the horror side you have Jeepers Creepers. And then on the just sci-fi side, you have something like Tremors.
Those are fun.
But, something like Jaws or Godzilla would not be a horror film at all, though they are a monster film.
Yeah.
Or creature film.
Yeah, you've got monster films, you've got horror films, then you get into sci-fi because the various types of aliens and getting into, they are creatures. I brought up Tribbles kind of joking, but kind of not. A lot of what Star Trek is going into the great beyond and encountering things that are not us. And a lot of those, some of them are humanoid, but a lot of them aren't, and a lot of them are dangerous.
Well, going back to the presentation thing, I think again it matters. How it the focus of the show. I mean, if it's just Star Trek and aliens are kind of the daily alien thing, that's less of a focus. Whereas something like again the movie Alien or Aliens, that encounter is front and center, and that makes it really the creature feature in my mind.
The thing about Trek, even episodes like The Devil in the Dark, which was where they encountered this silicone-based life form, it just turned out to be misunderstood. But that's also, to me, a disturbing trend in modern film and television where we're remaking stories about classic villains, but we're making them misunderstood. They were just misunderstood. They were bullied, and I'm just like...
They're just bad. No. It's okay. Let them be bad.
Why can't they just be evil?
Wasn't that the point when they made Independence Day after E.T.? There were all these shows with nice aliens or misunderstood aliens, and finally they said, you know what, we're going back to them being scary and out for annihilating humanity again.
Was that not the most chilling scene where that thing uses Brent Spiner?
Oh
as a
gosh,
puppet?
Oh yeah.
that's a great scene.
I love that scene. It's
Before
They
we
have
go
creature
too
features
deeply,
without critters either, though.
so let's elaborate. I did a quick Google search while you guys were talking and trying to figure out what exactly a creature was. And so Wikipedia, the site that says all things that we don't rely on, but it's a convenient, definition. But creature features are a genre of films and television that utilize supernatural, preternatural, extraterrestrial, or otherwise unnatural monsters as the antagonist. These silver screen screams combine elements of horror, science fiction, and fantasy. Most importantly, you can't get enough of them.
fair.
According to this, basically, it has to be more than just an animal.
So Cujo does not count, or does it count because it's an animal plus a parasite?
Yeah, it's whatever that made the animal more is what qualified it to cross over from just a scary bear. So cocaine bear would be a creature because the cocaine made it more.
Right. Bear
So
chasing
the
you through
Meg,
the woods for
which
your.
is Jaws on steroids, doesn't count.
Why? Well, actually, that would almost be a natural monster, so it would count as a creature feature. So it sounds like monsters are creature features, but creature features aren't necessarily monsters. It's like that square. Was it square rectangle thing we barely remember from geometry?
Well, Michael said Jaws on
Yeah, it made the
steroids.
list.
That would be Deep Blue Sea.
Yes.
Yeah, it would.
And that scared the crap out of me. I hate the deep ocean anyway, and that was just doubling down on all
Let's
the things
just
I
make
hate.
the shark smart.
If you want to be scared, they apparently have found
virus.
They have found viruses in the actual Deep Blue Sea. The week we recorded that, they just released that article, and everyone's like, "It's 2023. Leave it there. No, don't bring it up for samples. Leave it.
Leave it there."
So
The
then
2020 teaches nothing.
does the megalodon count?
It depends on the scenario where the megalodon is coming at you. If it's modern world, so it's out of time, sure, it would count. If you travel back to the Jurassic, it's just the flora and fauna. It's just another creature.
Yeah, but you traveled back in time.
But time travel doesn't mean it's a creature feature, does it?
No, it means it's sci-fi, though.
65, kind of.
Well, is it on the Discovery Channel or is it in the movie theater? Because on the Discovery Channel, it's not. When it's in the movie theater and it's the Meg and the Meg 2 and etc., now it's a creature because it's coming.
But Meg and Meg 2 are happening in the modern world, so it's an animal out of time, which makes it unnatural, which makes it creature feature. If you go back into its habitat, what?
It's not out of its time.
No,
it
but
lives down there. It just came through the thermal.
Right, I
our part of
understand
the
that.
ocean.
But for modern understanding, it's scary because it's not real. But the idea that it could be is what scares it. It becomes a creature feature because it's unnatural. But if you go back to its time zone, so if you travel back in time to the Jurassic and you see a Jurassic animal, well, it's not a creature. It's just an animal, no different than seeing a bear in the woods.
I'm glad I bought more booze for this show.
But Jurassic Park is still creatures because now you've got them unnaturally in the modern era. We've messed with their genetics and now they're eating us.
Right, but we're saying that megalodons are supposed to be extinct, but in the movie, they are not extinct. They've been living down there the whole time. They never went extinct. So are they still considered a creature just because we thought they were extinct and they actually weren't?
Yes, because we are humans and it's all about us.
Yep.
Absolutely. Just like we named our entire solar system after us. We're probably the only solar system in the galaxy that is going to be named with us as the center of the world, of the known world. I wonder if the aliens coming are going to be like, dude, these people are freaking weird. They're narcissists.
I'm sorry.
Around our
Earth is the planet that they
purpose.
lock their windows and doors on when they drive.
All right, so back to creature features.
The galaxy.
Maddie, do you want to weigh in? Everyone else is now weighed in.
Is Godzilla considered a creature?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
definitely made the list.
I would say it's a monster and a creature because it's unnatural.
Yes.
Radioactive.
That's why I
iguana.
ask, because most people would consider Godzilla just a monster. So,
But by this definition, monsters could qualify as creature features, but not all creatures are monsters.
Right.
Triangle, or no, it's squares and rectangles. People, clearly I need to go back to high school math. Public school people, don't blame me. I went to public school.
I did too. And
So,
became an instrument.
Here's my question. Are they Attack of the Killer Tomatoes creatures.
Well, they're unnatural
Yeah.
to have.
Those are way
tomatoes.
unnatural.
You don't see that sort of murderous behavior in a normal tomato.
So would
Correct.
clowns for what is it? Pennywise and Attack of the Killer Clowns, would they qualify?
All clowns
Pennywise,
qualify.
Yeah.
definitely.
I would say.
But
So all
Pennywise
clowns.
definitely,
Bozo?
because he shows
Yes.
up as what you're afraid of. He doesn't always show up as a clown. Sometimes he's a character out of a painting.
So,
Yeah, he's a
Stabby, do you think
He's a shapeshifter.
do you think all clowns qualify as creatures under the creature feature laws, though?
If you
Barn
see
Son
my
does.
face in- if you see my face in some of the pictures of when I was working at Circus, then you would know my answer because my face was always like this.
Well, if we're asking
What
if
was your
all
face again?
clowns count as a creature, would Terrifier my bad, Art the Clown, would he count at all?
Which
I'm sorry,
clown?
If you
which
guys-
clown?
Art the Clown from Terrifier, would he count if we're saying that all
I don't
clowns
know
He's
count
about
as
got
a
a
creature?
supernatural air to him, even though they don't come out and say it.
He has a natural way about him, but they don't come out and say it. They leave him more as like a serial killer slasher.
Yeah, I don't know about that. 'Cause
Yeah.
A friend of mine wrote a screenplay called Stalko the Clown, and he tried to say that Stalko was like a monster. I'm like, no, he's just a psychopath. He's
I got
Yeah.
some bolts
He's
on
just
his
a
neck or
killer.
something.
Technically,
Well, what
human.
about
just Stabby's ex.
Yeah, that pudding bridge. Stuff.
All right. Hey, Nick,
That's Nancy, boo.
I like this art. Do you know the guy that drew it? I think we ought to hire him or
That's
something.
me.
that guy did it?
That dude right there with the goatee.
That is not regulation.
That was such a fun museum too. That was so much fun. It was very interactive.
There's my dude.
So, are there any? So we've talked about all around, and we've kind of murdered the topic. So before we go into the commercial break, are there any creatures out of all the creature feature lists that are out there that scare you the most?
Jason.
The thing on the wing in the Twilight Zone.
Oh,
Oh, that's a good
Gremlin.
one.
Gremlin.
yes.
I always
Both
get
versions.
I always get the word wrong. What's that? That Stephen King movie that fucks me up every time. They're on the plane and the people that were asleep.
Langoliers.
The Langolier.
Yes, I always get that word wrong every time.
Starring
The
Tracy
Pac-Man
Lord.
creatures or
Movie
Okay.
fucks me
The
up.
one that the ones that scared me the most, really. Does anybody else remember a TV show in the 70s called Project Blue Book?
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So they had an episode where these hillbillies, God, I wish he was here, where these hillbillies were harassed by a bunch of little green glowing guys who were peeking in the windows and stuff. They ended up shooting at them with shotguns and whatnot. So
I remember
I
this.
saw this as a kid and I was just freaked out. And then like 2 months later, we're in Georgia visiting my grandma, and my brother goes and gets a bag of chem lights, breaks them, smears them all over his body, and comes out of the tree line.
And hilarity ensued.
No, oh God. Imagine.
So one question that we have to ask: did all of his kids come out all right after he did that with the chem lights?
Yes, they were all normal.
Okay. As far as we know. All
It's
right.
only dangerous if you eat them.
You would know.
I would know.
Well, it was all over his mouth. I don't know.
There are some videos of Marines eating the chem lights so their teeth would glow to scare people, and I'm like,
Ooh.
I mean, they expose us to enough bad stuff. We don't need to make it easier for them.
I never
All
heard
right.
of
That's
eating
what your
them.
peanut butter shot is for.
It's true. It's true. So, Maddie, what is the creature that scares you the most?
Jacob from Twilight.
The sparkly vampire?
Have you seen that person who
Werewolf.
turns into a werewolf?
Jacob's the werewolf.
Oh,
Yes,
I never
it's
saw
when
him,
he
so I don't
turns
know.
into a werewolf because the CGI. Don't get me wrong, I love Twilight so much. Don't get me wrong, the CGI horrible.
Gross.
It's horrible.
Did you ever see an
Bad
American Werewolf
CGI.
in London?
Rick
What?
is
Down, the
finest
best
work.
transformation sequence I've ever seen, and that was all Rick
Yep.
Baker.
Besides the howling.
If she hasn't seen American Werewolf in London, her dad is going to whoop her.
So I do think werewolves are plenty scary. I think shifters in general, because they could walk among you and you would never know, and then they could turn you without you having a say. It's not like they murder you. They could turn you into one of them. It's the same reason I think to a point vampires can be scary.
So what about Invasion of the Body Snatchers then? That didn't make the list, by the way.
I don't remember the conceit behind that one.
I'm so telling your dad. I'm texting him right now.
Sorry. I'm laughing because Maddie's telling me not to tell her dad that she hasn't seen American
I'll watch it
Werewolf
tonight,
in
guys.
London.
I'll watch it tonight.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers should work because that's again it's unnatural and
absolutely pod people are
definitely
something
an
else.
antagonist.
Yeah, what's scary about that is the loss of self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why the shifter thing is scary, because when you transform from man to beast. Now, I do think in order for shifters to be scary, or in werewolves specifically, you have to have that loss of control. I think the ones where it's like, I can change and I don't even have to take my clothes off. They just magically appear with me. Like that level of stupidity, like there's no scary there. Like it needs to look painful and terrifying when they shift, and they need to not have control. They just need to wake up. There's this, the Sci-Fi Channel did a series that they canceled when it started getting good, where it was like a ghost, a vampire, and a werewolf shared a house together.
Barely Human.
What We Do in the Shadows.
No,
No, that's the other one. No, it's the other one.
Barely Human. Yeah.
There it is.
And werewolf, the way they changed in that TV series,
The
like
British
it
version
just
is better.
Yeah, I've seen both, but it just looked painful when he transformed. Like that's the way it should be. Like the idea of, oh, it's just whatever. No, that's not scary.
Otherwise,
If you wanted to, go ahead.
I was just saying, then it's like Superman going into a phone booth to change. It's.
If you want it to look painful and then wake up naked, confused, and like, where the heck am I?
In other words, Saturday morning.
Blood is covering me.
So you like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer werewolves?
I love that show.
Great show.
Yeah.
That was one of the big challenges for their whole storyline with Oz was the loss of control, the lack of remembering, the waking up where he shouldn't be, and what happens when you don't chain yourself up.
I like that when they've got blood on them, but they don't know whose blood it is. Mm-hmm. What I want to see more of is where they take into account the modern world, where you've got forensics and all the things, and then still how do they manage to stay hidden? And if that adds that extra level of depth, like, oh shit, did I leave fingerprints behind? I hope not.
Rob Schneider's The Animal.
Wasn't there a B movie that was like Nazi werewolves kind of thing? I seem to remember that one. And then there was one where they were. There was one where there was British troops were on a patrol training mission, and then they started getting attacked by this werewolf.
Oh, War Dogs.
War Dogs. Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good scary one. So
yeah, I didn't see
although of course they've got the British sensibility, so they had to stop in the middle of the fight.
Well, that was like Kevin Kidd's like breakout role. He started getting noticed after that.
Jenna, did you say what was the scariest for you?
No, because I watch most of these movies like this. So
and for those of you listening at home, she's covering her hand and hiding behind them. Covering her eyes.
You have to peek through your hands kind of thing.
Because you want to watch, but you don't want to watch?
Yes, I want to, but I don't. So when Aliens got me, and the first time that I watched that, it was watching it that way. I was working on a quilting project at Jay's house because he and his wife used to do Sunday night parties, and we'd go over and we'd watch movies, and they've got it on, and I'm firmly paying a lot of attention to what it is I'm working on, because every time I'd glance up, there'd be something that just freaked me out, and it's like, okay, if I focus really hard on my cute little stuff, then it can't get me, right? So yeah, the things that are coming and you just hear it. Mm-mm.
I'm lucky we're still friends.
Well,
The chest bursting did not ever freak me out.
No, it was the thing coming that you couldn't see it and you just knew.
My issue was always the thing out of the mouth. If you think you're backed in a corner enough, you think you're safe, and then all of a sudden
it's like, surprise, dude.
Yeah.
All right, and on that note, we're going to do our blunt force segue, and I'm going to air that commercial footage. Thank you, Paul, for sponsoring this episode.
when a strange symbol is found at a burned-down historical site. Houston arson investigator Emmy Aninzo goes to work. As mysterious and inexplicably hot fires break out across the drought-ravaged city, she finds herself digging through the ashes of history. It's a race against time to track down the serial arsonist and explain the seemingly impossible heat of the fires. As strange evidence begins to pile up, Emmy wonders if the arsonist is insane, or even worse, possessed. Can Emmy and her colleagues find and stop him before the entire city burns? Parsec Award-winning author Paul E. Cooley wraps ancient mythology around an eerie contemporary tale that will leave you burning for more. Garre's Inferno, a free podcast novel available from shadowpublications.com and iTunes. Some mysteries shouldn't be solved.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. Thank you, Paul E. Cooley, for sponsoring. But I'm going to say this to you, sir. If you listen to this episode, you were setting this scary story in Texas. If there's not at least one reference to smoking animals and to barbecue, you're going to have to remove your Texan card and move to California.
Ew.
Oh,
Wow, that's
He lives in Houston, so he's writing in the neighborhood he lives in.
Oh,
For
Houston's barely Texas.
Or he can go to DFW. That's kind of like California now.
Anyway, all right. So
Austin.
back to the creature features. So
I had a quick question, real quick, JR. Hold on. Maddie, you said Godzilla as your creature feature pick. Are we talking old school Godzilla, or are we talking the new Godzilla that's fighting King Kong and Mothra and everybody else?
Both. But me personally, I mainly like the older Godzilla better. I feel like the newer Godzilla, they kind of nerfed him a little bit. If you guys know what that means.
We do.
we're not that
You've
old,
been
child.
playing video games longer than you've been around.
We came up with the term nerfed.
you know who else remembers?
Don't
Pepperidge
recite the dark
Farm
magic to me,
remembers.
young one. I was there when it was written.
You stepped
right,
all over my
That
Pepperidge
harshness
Farm.
aside.
Speaking of which, that's a nice segue, Nick. I like that. No, because there's a category of creatures and creature features that we haven't brought up, and those are movies that kind of have monsters in them in an incidental way. And Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe is a really good example. You had bites and harpies and minotaurs and all these other creatures running around this movie. And it was really interesting to me on that IMDb list was Willow. And I'm like, what? Willow's not a monster movie. What? It had some monsters in
There's
it.
monsters in
That
it.
scroll
Yeah.
scared the
But
shit
So
out of
if
me.
don't
that's
know
the
why
case,
would-
then we need to add Labyrinth.
Oh,
We could
gosh,
add
yeah.
we could add a ton of like every fantasy movie out there to it.
Dragon Slayer.
Legend.
Oh, yeah. Beastmaster.
Well, we were just talking about Unwelcome the other day with the goblins in Ireland with their red caps.
Mhm.
Oh,
The Power
So would the Chucky with the doll that comes to life? That was based off the my kid was it My Little Buddy dolls that
Oh my
went
gosh,
at the
the My
same age
Buddy
as
dolls.
and the kid's sister. I had one of those as a kid, and that was what
I think
Chucky was based
possessed
off of.
toys count.
yeah.
I
You think
think Chucky is more of a slasher.
But
Because even
he
though
is
he's a... Go ahead.
If you're going to
I
count
was gonna
Freddy,
say
you
he's-
gotta count Chucky.
he's not human, and he's not animal. He's not something that's part of our every normally. He is a killer doll, which is a common thing ever since the one that did for me was the if you ever seen Trilogy of Terror from
Trilogy of Terror.
yeah, the third. Everyone remembers the third one. They don't remember the first two of the trilogy. It's that one with the little doll, the little hunting doll that chases her around the house.
Well, if that counts, does the scarecrow? Does the scarecrow from Jeepers Creepers or is it Jeepers Creepers or
Oh,
Jeepers
yeah, that's a
Creepers?
creature feature.
That is
Yeah.
definitely a creature feature. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the official title? I'm getting it wrong. Is it Jeepers Peepers or Jeepers Creepers?
Creepers.
Creepers.
Yeah.
Creepers. Okay.
Creepers.
My sister convinced me to watch that. She's, it's wholesome. You'll have fun. And so I've been thinking a little bit, and I sit down to watch this, and I'm like, what the hell PTSD triggering crap are you making me watch?
What the hell? Emotional damage.
And then she starts reminding me of all the times I owed her from when we were kids, and I'm like, you son of a biscuit eater. So I watched it. It was weird.
There you go, JR.
All right, so Maddie, say what you just put in the chat because it's a good segue into another question.
Okay, if you haven't seen the new Chucky show, it kind of explains how Chucky started. Chucky is pretty much the soul of a person. I forget his name, like Charles something. It's his
named
soul.
after 3 different actual serial killers.
Yeah, it's the soul of the person inside the doll. That's kind of like with what's her name? The Bride of Chucky, his girlfriend. I forget her name, Tiffany Valentine.
Oh.
That's
the actress was Meg Tilly. That's all I remember.
Jennifer Tilly. Yeah, that's her soul
Her
inside
real
of the
name was
doll
Tiffany.
also, and her soul kind of gets broken free in the newer Chucky series. So I wouldn't consider Chucky a creature because it's the soul of someone inside the doll. Just kind of, I guess you could say, possessing it.
Well, okay, but that's my question then. Does possession count? Because you get into New Orleans, you get into Louisiana, and a lot of the stories there are about bringing the wa across. It's that possession of a spirit, a demon, a soul, does possession move something into
Classic zombies
into a creature?
were reanimated, possessed corpses.
Necromancers.
Ooh, the reanimator.
Well, it's just like a psychotic human soul because, I mean, Chucky's a psycho. It's just like a psychotic human soul inside the doll.
But it's making it unnatural. So I think that still falls under our definition.
I guess you can count Chucky then. I don't.
Because I mean, but if we count Chucky, we have to count Annabelle, and she's actually possessed by a demon.
Yeah.
So if we would count Annabelle, would we count the nun then?
Yeah.
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 So
the nun's just straight up a demon.
Stabby, hush. All right.
Yeah.
The audience.
Damn, JR, don't make me mess you up, bud.
No,
this is a good topic. We like the Conjuring universe here.
No. This is where the audience, I want you to weigh in the comment section. Do you think Chucky qualifies? Because if Chucky qualifies, their knock-on effect would too, as a creature feature or something else. So tell us what you think in the comment section. We need engagement to tweak the algorithms, people.
And just to throw this out here, Chucky's full name was actually Charles Lee Ray, named after Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, and James Earl Ray. 3 series.
Lee Harvey Oswald didn't do it. There was somebody on the grassy knoll. We all know this.
I'm just saying that's where he got his name from.
No, but there are a lot of. I was going to say there's a lot of other creature features, which where the monster began as a person. I mean, if I remember, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Fly, any vampire movies where they are transformed into a vampire.
What about Kafka?
Which one?
The Kafka seems like the metamorphosis where they turn into bugs. That was really popular in the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of becoming the creature because you start one way, but you become something else.
Yeah, but then if you want to also go off with get just completely out of the horror genre and a little bit more fantasy, then you got to throw in fairies, mermaids, freaking,
Spiderwick Chronicles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, go back to our definition. They're supernatural, preternatural, or extraterrestrial, and they're generally antagonists in a creature feature. So that's kind of our line when we're calling them actual creature features, is that they're that and they're antagonists. So yeah, I think you could totally have a lot of our fantasy creatures as antagonists. And Jay, I'm going to throw you under the bus here because I also want to talk about. I'm Jay's editor. Jay wrote a wonderful series of books that features a whole bunch of folklore creatures coming out of West Virginia. So, see, now we're going to put Jay right in the middle and put him on the spot.
All up in your face.
So what? So I mean, there's creatures that we keep coming up with the common ones, but folktales give us creatures that we don't see all the time, and that's part of why I like his series and want to talk about, because we do this. We explore it more in books than we do in movies most of the time, because movies are appealing to that mass market. But in books, we get all kinds of creatures that are well off the beaten path. And I don't know if there's a question there, but I want to open up for discussion. When we change media, is it how do we do the creature feature when we're talking books or comics or other such things.
I'd go straight to Harry Potter. He has a lot of creatures that a lot of us don't think about. Everything from pixies to hippogriffs.
So 3-headed dogs.
3-headed dogs. Dragons.
Well, my favorite one that I found out when I was researching for it was the snallygaster. So if anyone has heard about the snallygaster.
Love the snallygaster.
It is, as far as I can tell, it's basically an American dragon, except in a nice little Lovecraftian twist. It's got like the head of an alligator, and it's got tentacles. And actually, Teddy Roosevelt, I think, was supposed to go hunting at one point, but they called that off. But it was in the Cumberland and Appalachian region. But it was flying. It was supposed to fly off with livestock. Was their concern? And it's like we've got. If you go into folklore, you've got a lot of wonderful, horrible creatures to pull from, which is why I did what I did. And I'm sad that they haven't made the transformation into movies, but I think movies tend to go more conservative with creatures that everyone's heard of.
Yeah, but cryptids count, I think, especially with folklore. I mean, look at Sasquatch. The Yeti, Loch Ness Monster, Nessie,
Goatman.
all of these, there's this debate now that Nessie is really just a plesiosaur and all this kind of stuff. Still a dinosaur in the modern age, so it counts. So,
and a lot of those have come into movies and so forth. Yeah.
So let's say this. So originally everyone thinks grim fairy tales, and everyone, when you think fairy tales, they tend to think, when we've mentioned this before, of the Disneyfication where everything is made so, sweet and cuddly, right? Mm-hmm. And so as modernity smooths out the rough edges of what was formerly scary creatures, are they still part of the creature feature genre, or do they lose that status when they have the rough edges smoothed out?
I don't know. What about the Beast from Beauty and the Beast? Creature? Non-creature? Human turned into
one is library.
Creature, but not a monster, maybe.
Because he owned books.
Yeah.
Because he's got a reader.
But then you've got no, never mind. Train of thought derailed. Train of thought by Amtrak.
The Disney version of him wasn't scary though, so
not the slightest.
And he didn't even feel that much of an antagonist.
He was just another character. Yeah, that's a tougher one.
He was
if you're gonna go Disney, if you want Disney, an antagonist and a creature, you have Ursula.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, she means creature.
Suiting it back to you, Jay, you mentioned that you used some of the fairy tales as inspiration for your creature feature stories. Did you go more grim or more Disney on your interpretation?
Oh, I went with grim because we've got some. It was it's not a horror series, but most of the stories are pretty terrifying. The pale eyes, which imitate people or animals, but they're phantoms that have you usually tell because they look like mutants, and their eyes are not set right, or their eyes are hanging out on the nerve bundles. And it's like, okay, you can't read that and say, oh, I want to do a cute one of that. It's like, no, these guys are terrifying. And I wanted to capture that as, as antagonists, as obstacles and everything. So yeah. Even the cute stuff, if you go back far enough, I mean, fairies for the most part, if you go, if my wife, the storyteller, she loves the, going back to some of the older fairy tales, and the fairies were things that you just left alone. And even the fairies in the Native American stories, they had their own versions of it. And those were generally more beneficial, but even so, you didn't mess with them because they were the ones they would cull the human herd if you screwed up. So, we can have fun with that.
Are there any creature feature type monster? No, not really monsters. Antagonists that are, you think, universal across cultures? Because you've studied, mentioned Indians and some of the. Is there any of them that sort of transcend that everyone has a version of? I know culturally, most historic lore has some version of a dragon, for instance.
Right.
I think vampires are pretty universal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And shifters of some sort,
Yep.
whether they're skinwalkers or whether there's a whole bunch. There's Egyptian mythology has a bunch of shifters and people that can do changes.
Native American trickster gods.
Mhm.
Ghosts, specters
Ghosts, yeah.
of various kinds.
Right.
And again, the fairies, the spiritual folk, is surprisingly common across, African, Native American, European. They're all, a little different depending on your culture. But and I think these all kind of play into, I think just very human fears and ancestral fears. The vampire, especially something or anything that can appear as a human, which is where shifters come in, that can appear as a friend, that can appear as an ally, but is actually, there to devour you is, that's a terrifying thought.
Well, while we're on this subject, what is your guys' thoughts on skinwalkers?
Leave them alone.
Yeah, get
Leave
far away from
Leave
that.
them alone.
Shoot them at range.
I live out in the desert. We just don't mess with that stuff, man.
So, okay, so we don't mess with skinwalkers, we don't mess with fairies, we don't mess with pixies because those are also right up there with tricksters. Then what are some creatures that you guys would like to meet?
Half the cast of the TV show Grimm.
Yeah, but for it to be a creature feature, by the definition we agreed to earlier, they have to be an antagonist. So I don't want to meet any of. Now, if they could come as allies, there's a lot of them that sound cool, but as antagonists, maybe not so much.
As long as they're antagonizing somebody else.
Ooh, but then that makes you on the side of the evil.
Yeah, I don't have to outrun you, God. I just have to outrun you.
Send a horde of zombies into enemy territory. I don't know.
That's one of the interesting things I'm thinking about. Buffy and Angel, Supernatural, Charmed. I mean, a lot of these shows that deal with the supernatural, the purpose of the creatures there is you have to have an antagonist, and they're very careful about we don't kill humans. There's a lot of that goes into it. And there's an episode where Faith kills a person, and they play that for several episodes as the slayer. You can kill vampires, you can kill demons, you can kill whatever else, but killing a human is the worst possible thing that they can do there. It's all focused on it's okay when it's an antagonist that is a creature. And we see that also in like role-playing games. It comes up very often. Dungeons and Dragons, wipe out all the kobolds, but you don't go into a town full of normal villagers and wipe them out. So there's a morality around the creatures that very often, because they're antagonists, they're also disposable. They become the disposable thing because we don't kill people.
Something that just occurred to me, again, creature feature. And you're talking about the Disneyfication, but there is also the, I am the monster. The first one that I remember was Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, and that series, where it did to some degree humanize the monster, yet they remained monstrous.
Well, if we want to go into writing works, I mean, you can't leave out Little Red Riding Hood.
No.
Because, I mean, the wolf is talking to her first and foremost.
Okay, I've got a problem with the Little Red Riding Hood. How the hell did she not know that was not her grandmother? Was she supposed to be blind? Because that just never worked for me for a fairy tale.
She's very nearsighted.
Clearly, she can't smell either.
Before they had Coke bottle glasses.
Okay, but this is like smells. Animals smell a lot different than Granny. The Granny would be smelling like Werther's and
my Granny.
Was it a werewolf? Did it have a human form? Was it a shapeshifter?
Well, in the fairy tale, no, it was just in wolf form.
Just a wolf form.
But she talked to it, and it talked back. What big eyes you have.
Yeah, she could see, she could smell, she could there is nothing about a wolf that comes across like a human. That's part of the point of the uncanny valley.
Typical wolves also can't get dressed up in Granny's clothes and have that working anyway. So there's some kind of a human form there. It's not specifically written that way, but there has to be some kind of a connection there for the actions that it takes.
Now, back when the story first was done, the wolves could do that. They just kind of got more primitive over time.
Really?
Yeah,
No, he's totally making up crap.
But it sounded great.
I'm a writer.
Yeah, but she introduced you as like the expert of all things folklore. So I'm like, I was going with it. I'm like, oh, you did the research.
Dude, you could have still had
You wrote
everybody.
about the Dwago.
Yeah, the Dwayo. Yeah.
Wow, I always say it wrong.
Yeah.
So one thing I learned about being a tour guide in college, because I was a docent at the local historic place and would be given tours, is people, if they think you're an expert, will believe anything you say. One of the houses had Nike shoes, and this was in the South. I'm like, oh, those were worn by Calhoun when he played golf for the first time with a big old Nike stripe. And they were like, oh, okay. And they were telling the person at the next station, yeah, those were Calhoun's golf cleats. I'm like, come on, people, critical thinking.
If you say it with enough emphasis and belief coming from you, people will believe anything.
Well, so I just applied some of that little NCO razzle dazzle. You know, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. And I applied that. Like, you had that going, Jay, until you backed out. Like, well, you were the expert on all things fairy tales, and I was prepared to say, okay.
Well, my wife was a tour guide for the Salt Lake City ghost tours, and her problem was when they actually did have something kind of freaky appear, her brain turned off, and she didn't believe what it was that she was seeing, so she just kind of kept on going with her script, and then like at the next stop, people were like, what was that in the window? And she was like, you saw that too? She's like, I'm the worst tour guide. We could have seen an actual ghost there, and I didn't draw anyone's attention to it because I did not even register. What is that?
So I was a tour guide at Valley Forge for a while too, and so all I remember was, we're walking, we're stopped. Because you've got morons that don't pay attention. But anyway, so back to the fairy tales.
Okay.
I never bought into the Red Riding Hood because I don't understand how she just couldn't tell. Having said that, how much do you expect to have to suspend your disbelief, and how much do you want to be convinced that this could be real when you were engaging with creature features? Maddie, you got something to say?
Always.
I was completely zoned out. What? I'm sorry.
She's burning the candle at both ends. We're not letting her sleep. We're just hyping her up on caffeine. She'll be good for another couple days. So when you're watching a creature feature, how much are you willing to suspend your disbelief, and how much do you want it to be believable?
Well, me personally, when I watch a movie, I try to, especially creature feature movies, I try to make it as believable in my head as possible because I don't want to ruin the movie for myself. But
okay.
if it's something that's obviously like, oh, that doesn't look real at all, then I'll just be like, I don't care. But then at that point, that just considers it a bad creature feature.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my friends always says, give the movie, the book, whatever its premise. And so you're going to buy in and give it the premise until the media kicks you out. And when it kicks you out, then you have the right to say, well, that sucked. As long as it does what it's supposed to and it fulfills its premise, then you give the premise and you roll with it.
At a certain point, you start rooting for the monster to kill those stupid people.
Oh, yeah, so hard.
All the time.
Every Godzilla movie ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even in slasher movies, you'll be watching them and the chick will trip over absolutely nothing, and you're just sitting there like, you deserve what's about to happen.
You deserve to die.
We call those characters too stupid to live.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be right back.
So, Jana, where's the line for you? You said you were willing to suspend your disbelief until they break the premise they set up. But where is that line for you? Oh, it looks like we lost Maddie to some tech issues, but
we lost Maddie.
Her Wi-Fi is not the best where she's at. When Nick wins the lottery, he is going to buy her better internet, he swears.
Okay, but was it tech issues or did one of the creatures get her?
Wow. We weren't going to tell you. You're going to scare everybody.
Sitting on the bed and something just...
A rabid possum.
Yep.
All right.
Has anybody checked on Samson?
She's in Las Vegas, so I'd have to say it was a mountain lion.
Aliens.
I think the mountain lion got her, or an alien.
Aliens in Vegas, yeah.
Yeah,
But no, that's the thing is that when it breaks its premise, when it breaks its promise, is when it either narratively does something stupid or, like Maddie talked about earlier, really bad CGI. You know, and this is the Jaws thing. Jaws is a much scarier movie before you ever see the shark. Because what you don't see, that's the premise I bought into, is that this thing is phenomenally terrifying, and what I don't see is what scares me. And then when we finally get the shark on film, it breaks part of the premise for me because it's so badly done. And so
it was well done for its era. It just didn't age well.
For its era, well, even in its era, it was... what you didn't know was still scarier than what you saw.
Sad to say, most older monster movie practical effects do not stand the test of time.
Especially not 4D.
No, or stop motion. Remember those awful Sinbad movies? With
those were great.
Harryhausen. I'm just going to say that
Harryhausen.
Bruce the shark still scares people on a daily basis. Just at Universal Studios, because I always put my son on the outside of the cart, and when he comes up out of the water, it gets him every time. Like, he knows he's there. He knows it's going to happen. It still gets him every time.
It's a good jump scare.
I love it.
See, I'm not a fan of jump scares. I think they're overused. I don't like them because obviously they scare me, but I also think they're way overused.
I like it when they use them as a head fake.
That's what I was just going to say.
So
I think
that jump scare is going to happen, and it just doesn't happen.
It's actually the cat hiding in the cabinet,
Mm-hmm.
And then it's him stubbing his toe. It's like, damn it. Okay, that's
like they open the freezer, and you're like, oh, it's going to be behind the freezer. They close the freezer, and there's nothing there.
That can work.
But then they turn left and run right into it.
Yeah.
You got to wait for the dramatic sigh where they think they're safe.
Right.
Oh, yeah. My favorite.
Or the guy who says he's going to retire. Oh, go ahead, madam.
I'm too old for this shit.
I think one of the weirdest creature features that I've seen in a while was called Slither.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Nathan Fillion.
It was so weird. You're just like, how are these worms getting to everybody? And then you watch them just simultaneously getting to everybody, and you're like...
And then the one girl has the idea to actually cover her mouth and her nose with her hand as she's getting attacked, and, oh, she's safe.
She's safe!
Oh, wait, this could work.
It's not going to work.
Where's my COVID mask?
Which one? You got 9 of them.
Okay. It's such a weird movie. It was so weird. We sat down and watched it, and I was just like, huh. But then there was another one called Splinter, and that one was equally as weird.
Splinter?
Yeah.
Oh, so, Michael,
yep.
You didn't answer. So where is the line of disbelief where you're willing to accept the premise, and at some point in time, like where does I'm willing to accept this premise of a creature feature and it's unrealism?
Like I said earlier, I've always found them more amusing than scary. And mainly that's because of bad practical effects. You know it's a guy in a suit. You know it's a dude with makeup. You know, the movies that really, truly terrified me are the ones where you don't see the monster. Like she was talking about at the beginning of Jaws. Absolutely terrifying. This is why the Blair Witch Project messed with me so much. Because you never saw the witch. She's just there.
You see it in the second one.
Yeah. Well, okay.
And it's a skinwalker.
I didn't watch the sequel.
I didn't finish the first one.
I think the thing that pulls me out the most are the bad practical effects. Something like Bruce, or I thought Tremors was pretty well done though.
I love Tremors.
For me, the issue I run into is in the age before CGI was the crutch, the actors were better at acting, and so they sold it more. There was more suspense. There was more tension. Now everything is so reliant on the green screen. It's like the delivery is wooden.
You'll never get another ROUS scene with Carrie Elwes from The Princess Bride.
No.
That stupid rat.
Actually, I was going to ask you, Michael, have you ever seen the test footage that they did for the movie Aliens with the original suits and the alien queen?
No, I've not.
Okay. I mean, you watch it and you're like, how in the world was this something scary in the movie? Because, when all the lights are on and, there's
right.
a back lot or something looking at it, you're like, there is no way. This is totally unconvincing. But when they get it on the set, they add the fog, they add the darkness. You can kind of see them.
The music, the whole package of Alien, especially the scene where Harry Dean Stanton buys it.
Mm-hmm.
The way they did the camera angles and the cutaways and the music and the fog and all of that was combined in such a clever way that it was absolutely horrifying. But yeah, if I saw the guy wearing the alien suit on the lot, I'll be like, "Hey, Frank, what's up?" And not even care about you going to the commissary. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, I wouldn't care.
I actually have a photo of that on my Twitter page, and I think on my Instagram too. And it just says, "A xenomorph on break, nothing to see here," and he's just sitting on a crate.
So there's a funny story. Yeah, there's a funny story about the Wraith Queen that was the Tila. I think Tila was the actor, was the character, becomes the Wraith Queen in the Stargate Atlantis, and so she ended up being pregnant when she was playing that role. I don't know if they hit it in the movie. It's been a while since I've seen Atlantis, but they talk about it at some of the con panels that I've watched on YouTube about how the other actors would mess with her about the bonding because she would, breastfeed her son or daughter, whatever the kid was, in her trailer between sets, but she's doing it in full get-up of the Wraith Queen about how her kid would never bond with her properly because it didn't realize that mom wasn't the Wraith Queen, that mom was mom. and how horrific that was because that line.
Speaking of female creature features, what about Species?
Nope.
Anybody see that?
Yes. I could. Yeah, that was creepy.
What about The Descent?
Which one's that?
Yeah, The Descent.
Where they go in the cave.
They go down into the cave, and there's like cave creatures down there, and they're like running on the ceiling of the cave and stuff. But the cave divers cannot get back out.
Those are real. I have seen real pictures. I have a guy at work who goes cave spelunking all the time, and actually for a couple of stories that I was doing, he said, "Here, let me send you some pictures of like these real things," and it's like cave spiders and stuff like that. It is like, oh, nightmare fuel, totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of these days, Nick, you and I need to write a creature feature, and we need to use camel spiders.
Yeah.
Oh, those are awful.
Yeah. No, I know. Michael was Army too. Did you go overseas in the desert, Michael, where you got to see camel?
For Gulf War I.
Okay.
Okay,
right,
so the thing with camel spiders is that one, they are kind of aggressive, but two, they're after your shadow. They're trying to get out of the damn sun. So all those videos of like camel spiders chasing people, they're not after the people, they're after shade. So you could write that into the story. That's a big misconception. It's like, oh, these damn mutant spiders are coming after me. And you're hiding behind a tree that's providing a bunch of shade. He's like, man, I just want to cool off, bro.
What about the creatures from the mist?
Despite the first lieutenant we sent looking for a TREE.
Yeah.
I found it, by the way, when my Joes tried to send me to do that, but then they forgot that I crossed over as a staff sergeant.
Oh, there's a funny one where the guy came back AWOL. He'd been gone for a year, but he came back with grid squares, was a product named Grid Squares. And he was like, I wasn't AWOL. I was conducting the mission. You told me to go get grid squares. Here they are, sir.
Right.
You couldn't count him as AWOL. They had to take it off the books. Otherwise, explain that the day he decided to walk was the day they literally told him to find those. And since he came back with them, he was on duty the whole time. I don't know if that's real or an urban legend we hear, but if it's true, that kid is a genius.
Hey, sir, we need to go to the motor pool and get an exhaust sample.
So, quick question. What do you guys think about the creatures from the mist?
The creatures from the mist. I'm not familiar. Go on.
You've never seen The Mist?
You've never seen The Mist?
The Army was messing with dimensional travel and opened a portal where really nasty stuff came through.
It was originally a Stephen King story, and I think it was also borrowed as the premise for the video game Half-Life.
Yeah.
Those creatures were something else.
They were something else.
Most of the time you didn't get to see them. You got to see a tentacle here or an arm there. and then you get one flying creature that gets into the store, completely wreaks havoc.
So,
And
I would say
everybody
dimensional portals and time warps are a good way to get a creature feature to make something believable, because it doesn't have to make sense in our world because they're not from our world, which is why probably aliens work.
Mm-hmm.
Extraterrestrials, not specifically just the show. Aliens.
Well, I mean, you also have the Blob or the Stuff.
Yeah, the Stuff. That's such a creepy movie.
Because it's not really.
And everything that showed up in my science project.
Oh, I love that movie. I destroyed the VHS tape. I watched that so much one summer.
So would the girl
so
from
mad.
Weird Science, when she appears, count as a creature feature because she's unnatural?
No, because she's
Is
hot.
she an antagonist?
I mean, depends on who you ask.
No, she's the protagonist of that movie.
I was trying to make it funny, but it just
She's like a
We're all
really
taking it
powerful
seriously.
sidekick.
Yeah, we're all like super scientific about like, no, I mean,
you're like analyzing the joke and like,
You only have to think about it.
funny when you think about it.
that actually makes the joke funnier. We all took it so on the nose, like, oh, well, no, you're stupid. Of course not.
Starship Troopers.
JR,
Oh,
you
Starship
moron. What are
Troopers
you doing?
had. Yeah,
I was to say, somebody heard me.
I did. I heard just in yeah.
Well,
Oh, the bugs?
The bugs.
Starship
The
Troopers.
bugs and
from
Starship
Yeah.
Troopers.
Trooper.
yeah.
Another one
Yeah,
where
I
I
guess
was
it would,
enjoying
yeah,
the
'cause
movie
that
and then
falls
watched
in
the
this-
rest.
That's on the same plane as aliens. So,
So
yeah.
do you think the definition we found that we've been using, do you think it's overly broad? If that's,
It's a brushstroke, man. It's a broad brushstroke.
I almost
Look
feel
at
like
the
Alien should be its own genre. Like Alien films is its own thing.
Yeah, it's sci-fi horror.
Mhm.
But I mean that's even more broad if you're just saying aliens. Anything involving science fiction aliens. I mean, literally everything you run into, any living creature you run into outside of Earth, would then be an alien. Whether it's
Even a microbe.
bacteria,
Andromeda plane
microbe.
becomes a creature feature.
Yeah, well, and a microbe could be. I mean, that's effectively what was it? The Blob, wasn't that like a giant single-celled organism or something?
Have you seen the movie Europa? I think it's Europa. It's where they land on the moon and they're like they're drilling into the water and it
Oh
unleashes.
yeah.
It was like
Stuff.
a parasite, right?
I seem to remember. Yes, it's been a while since I've seen it. I just remember the not knowing what was going on, and you're like wanting to scream at the guys on the screen. Look behind you!
Oh, that movie Life is like that.
No, the one with the rock. With the white gorilla.
White gorilla. Jumanji?
Rampage?
Oh,
No,
Rampage. Yeah, the based on the video game made by The Rock.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of,
You have movie.
would Jumanji count as a creature feature?
Ooh,
It's
I think
unnatural.
The
Jumanji
focus
is
is
a
on a
fantasy
creature,
tale.
though.
I think we need a prequel to Jumanji of like how the board game was made, what magic got put in there, and then like the video game thing. That's just an extension of the board game, obviously. So I would love to see that movie. And I'm surprised Hollywood hasn't done that. Like, why is that? What's the story behind that?
Okay.
Hollywood, I want 10%.
I saw Jenna yawning, and we were at the hour 20 mark. So, and it is a school
I
night.
just
so-
more caffeine. We're good.
That's right.
So,
Lake Placid, Anaconda, Cabin in the Woods.
my anaconda
Man.
don't want. Oh, sorry, wrong.
if you ain't got buns, huh?
What
Yeah.
was that goofy piranha
Cabin in the
movie
Woods was
with,
a horror
Christopher
movie
Lloyd?
with lots of creatures in it, but I don't know if it was necessarily a creature feature because it wasn't
We're on a
the,
movie with
the
Christopher
focus.
Lloyd.
But
Hold
it
on.
was a
Hold-
fantastic
No,
movie.
no, no.
And
You guys can't all talk over each other. So Jay was talking about Creature in the Woods. LaVoice and Nick are going to wait.
yeah, Madam Stabby mentioned that one, and I was just riffing off of it.
Okay. So do you think
Got a lot of
the
creatures, but it's not necessarily a creature feature.
so do you think the creature has to be the main antagonist, not just one of many, for it to be a creature feature?
I would say that, or the creatures of the same type. So, like a zombie movie isn't about necessarily a single zombie, although it could be. But if the focus is on the zombies, however, zombies are one of 40 different horrible creatures that are attacking the people, a la Cabin in the Woods, then that's really not the focal point. And I wouldn't really consider it, a creature feature or it's a horror movie with lots of horrors.
Well, what about Lake Placid? Because everybody automatically assumes that the main antagonist is the alligator crocodile. Can't remember which one it was, but I'd say it was the little old lady.
Yeah, that gets back into the territory Mike brought up earlier about, if it's got creatures in it, it doesn't necessarily make it a creature feature, because if it's not about them as the antagonist doing things, because again, we get into all sorts of movies that have the supernatural, the mystical, the this, that, and the other, but they can be, good guys and warm and fuzzy and fluffy, and that's, I don't think, what we're talking about as a creature feature. We're talking about the ones that are antagonistic.
Yeah.
Lake Placid is in the
I found
top
the movie I was talking about was Piranha 3D.
Okay.
It was Christopher Lloyd and a chick from Karate Kid. Can't remember her name.
Oh, Elizabeth Shue.
There you go, Elizabeth Shue. Yeah.
Huge crush on her when I was a kid.
Google's top 20 creature feature list is definitely it's definitely interesting, and it does have Piranha on it, as well as Anaconda, Lake Placid, The Reef, Cabin in the Woods, Black Water, Pacific Rim, Dawn of the Dead, and Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, interesting.
Edge of Tomorrow?
Edge of Tomorrow was aliens. Yeah.
Yep. That one's.
Is that the one where you're reliving the same day? It was like a sci-fi Groundhog Day?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
And it kind of makes you wonder, like, you see the difference between the Google's top 20 and then you see, IMDb's top 20. It makes you wonder,
You know what I want to see? I wonder what's on the Shudder top 20. We should get them to sponsor us this month as much as you pimp them out. But I wonder what Shudder has as their top 20, because that's more on point, because it's speaking to its target demographic as opposed to some wanker in the woods who you have no idea if he's even seen half those movies.
Well, and again, a lot of these are very US based. Because if you want creatures that'll just scare the pee out of you, go watch anime for a while. Because the Japanese anime stuff, their creatures are freaky. And that'll keep you up at night.
All right, so here is I'll give you guys the top 10 of the Shudder creature features. We have the Hollow, which is goblins. We have Sea Fever, which is a weird deep sea squid parasite that takes over your body. You have Dagoon, which he looks like a vampire with like 5 different layers of teeth. We have Unwelcome, which is the Celtic redcap goblins. Kids versus Aliens. The Bog. The Lair, which looks like an alien, because I have not seen that one yet, and that will be on the list for tonight's watchings. Take Back the Night, which looks like The Thing. Undead, which looks like vampires. Hugh the Winged Serpent.
Oh, Corman film, I love it.
Slashback, which looks like Slender Man. And The Uninvited, which looks like a rat inside of a cat inside of a person.
There's a lot I haven't seen.
You know what was absent from all of these lists that really ticked me off that it was absent from all these lists?
What's that?
Monster Squad.
Oh, I love that movie. The whole thing don't have nards.
It had all the classic monsters. Dracula, mummy, werewolf, and even the Black Lagoon creature.
The creature, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it had everything. Didn't make the list.
It was a smorgasbord.
I think when it comes to creature features, it all depends on your personal preference. Like me, I think there needs to be some sort of actual creature. Like, the creature from the Black Lagoon or Frankenstein or Godzilla. I think, personally, that's my personal opinion, I don't think aliens quite fit in because I see aliens as their own genre. And so I think when it comes to creature features, it's a personal preference.
So since we're airing this during the spooky season, and this is the time where kids like to dress up and scare themselves, are there any creature features that are age appropriate for the youngins that you could watch as a family?
Monster Squad.
Mod Squad?
Monster Squad.
Is that different than Mod Squad?
Hocus Pocus.
Very different than Mod Squad.
Hocus Pocus is a good one.
Hocus
It has
Pocus?
zombies.
It's about witches, right? Not
witches. There's witches, but there's a zombie there, and there is a reborn cat, and so.
But are they the main? Are they the main antagonists?
Yes, the zombie works with the witches.
Okay, so then does it?
I mean, you're talking about kid friendly, so I'm trying to work on ones where they're antagonists without being, what would I show my kid?
Okay, fair.
She's a coward.
Monsters Incorporated, Shrek.
Yes.
Yep.
The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
That's a great set.
The Labyrinth, The Never-Ending Story, The Spiderwick Chronicles.
So we're just going to share the generational trauma that we all have from watching those movies?
Absolutely.
Coraline.
Hello. Hashtag parenting.
Yep. The Dark Crystal.
Jenna, that's what we call hashtag parenting win.
Monster House.
Monster House. Yes.
What was
I forgot all about that one.
Little Monsters was another one. That's the monster under the bed, and he's definitely.
That had Howie Mandel.
Yep, Howie Mandel.
Yeah. The Nightmare Before Christmas.
What about Labyrinth? Because it was the monsters that took her brother.
Yep.
It's on the list.
It's a musical. I don't count it.
It's on the list.
Labyrinth wasn't a musical, was it?
It had music.
It had Bowie, man. Of course he's going to sing.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I would have Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice.
I was just thinking there was one called, I think, The Witches, and if you can find it, there's The Watcher in the Woods.
Yep.
That was an actual Disney film.
Very creepy for Disney.
Yeah, it was, and I've seen some of the alternate endings for that one, and those are just mind-boggling.
Where the Wild Things Are.
Oh, that's a good suggestion.
Oh.
Max, King of the Wild Things.
Okay.
Stabby, the queen of Google.
Well done, Madam Stabby. Well done.
Madam Google now.
Madam Googly Google.
Madam Sort the Oracle.
Stabby McGoogleton.
Stabby McGoogleton.
All right. So we've covered kids. What about if you were going to give someone a list of, because, I've been drug into all things horrific and spooky by the Stabby clan because they wanted to talk about it. So I'm sort of out of my depth. That's why I'm just pulling random questions out of my backside. But if you had someone who was not well-versed in all things creature feature and you had to give them the number one you would recommend as a gateway drug, what would it be?
Frankenstein.
The Thing.
The Thing. Okay. Mike LaVoice.
I loved An American Werewolf in London. I'd go with that.
That is my number 2. It's actually kind of between The Thing and that. The transformation scene is top notch. Rick Baker's perfect work. Got an Academy Award for it.
Yeah, you did, and well deserved. But the thing about that movie, in addition to the werewolf itself, the fact that all of his victims followed him around in various stages of decay was just awesome.
Zombie goats. Oh, and his best friend, just
Peter.
The comic relief.
His name?
He was the C-3PO of that movie. I loved it.
What creature feature would Jana tell us to watch?
I'm going back to George Romero and the Day of the Dead. The classic black and white that just keep coming no matter what you do. That's the biggest horror in zombies, is that you can't make them stop.
You should have saved that answer for when we do the zombie show.
You can repeat yourself.
We can bring it up in the zombie show. It's all right.
I wanted one of the sequels as your answer. That's
I
from
didn't
there.
watch very many of those, but I'll bone up before the.
Dawn of the Dead. Some of
Shaun of the Dead.
I was just about to.
Shaun of the Dead's good.
That's creature feature taken humorous.
but Tom Savini's best
I love
creature
Tom
work was
Savini.
in Dawn of the Dead.
I love Tom Savini.
Uh,
He is the
I just
best
want to go to
in-
that bar. If that's a real bar, I want to go there and just say I drank there.
which one?
The Shaun of the Dead, the bar that they're in.
Oh, the Winchester.
There
Yeah.
is. There
It's real?
is. Yeah, it
well,
is.
It is now.
And also, you know how he
Oh,
did.
Hobbiton.
They
Okay,
did
so Night
the,
of the Living Dead, the
All
first
blow
one.
over.
what was that other Simon Pegg movie? End of the World or
No, World's End.
World's
World's
End?
End.
That's an actual bar too, and that one's been open for decades.
Okay, all right.
Because there was a serial killer that would pick up chicks there and kill them. Just saying.
Clearly, I need a 12-step program if I'm thinking about bars. But
What about the bar from
bullets.
dusk till dawn?
yeah,
From Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah.
well, LaVoice and Barnson need to give us their, what you would recommend as a starter for someone to get into it.
I already said mine.
Okay,
American Werewolf in London.
that's right. You did.
Jay's the
Good
only
choice.
holdout.
Yeah, well, and I did it to subjected Jana to it already. There's Aliens, but since we've already discussed that one, how about The Ring?
Ooh. Really?
Ooh,
Gosh, no.
that is a good one.
See, that
Okay.
covers a lot of stuff: creature feature, paranormal, horror.
Yeah.
Romance.
That also brings you into The Grudge too.
So this is where you get to weigh in, dear listener. It'll be on the Spotify if you're over there. It'll be the question is, where would you start if you wanted to introduce someone to the wild world of creature features? So there you
It's
go.
your baby step answer.
Yeah, the baby
We're
step
gonna have to
answer.
circle back to this one because this one is there's just too much to talk about.
Most of these topics that you came up with for Spooktober are kind of like that.
We need to break them down into smaller things.
Sorry,
Well,
not
but
sorry.
then again,
Sorry.
Nick had us talk about Star Wars and Star Trek already, and those are the same thing. The universe are so vast. Like the first episode, you're just like scattergunning approach to the topic when there's so much deeper you could dive.
Oh yeah.
Well, how about next year we just revisit all these topics as part 2 and continue further into the rabbit hole of these horror topics.
Let's focus on like ghost films for one, and zombie films for one. Yeah.
Laser focus. Get down into the nitty gritty.
We will have to get JR watching these films.
I gave you access to my
Movie
show.
night.
Well, I mean, I've started watching stuff. We watched Forbidden Planet, and we watched The Black
love that
Hole.
movie.
The Black Hole. Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
there's
one, I
more
don't know
nightmare
when this is
fuel.
airing. Yeah, I don't know when
the
this,
figures from the
I
Black
don't know when that's airing in relation to this episode, but we watched The Black Hole. We're going to be doing more retro movie reviews as well. So,
Yeah, we got
Let me
Planet
know
9
when you
from
get
Outer
to Buckaroo
Space.
Banzai.
Which one, Michael?
Buckaroo Banzai, Adventures Across the Eighth
Oh,
Dimension.
Peter Weller's best movie besides RoboCop.
you have 3 seconds to comply. All right. So we're at the hour and a half mark. We can't go on forever. We have to put a pin in it somewhere. So, Michael LaVoice, what are you writing right now? And then how can listeners and viewers find you on the wild, wild interwebs? As usual, links will be in the show notes.
Right now, I am currently working on. I finished the outlines for my Alien Invasion series, and so now I'm working on the outlines for my Gladius Leagues series, which takes place in a future where we have eliminated war in our time by having warfare by proxy by professional warrior athletes. Just think power armored NFL combined with WWE, and you're not far off.
Nice. I'm there.
Yeah, I'm in. It's fun. So I'm working on that outline, and I'll start writing both of these series simultaneously once I have the outlines done for the first 3 of the other one.
You need to come have one of the announcers that are like commentating on this be like, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him.
Oh, yeah. I'm stealing all the old classics, but I'm going to go back and listen to, like, one of my favorite moments from my childhood was watching Monday Night Football with Fran Tarkenton as a commentator.
Oh,
with
Fran Tarkenton.
And this guy takes a hit in the legs as he's jumping, and it flips him end over end 3 or 4 times. He hits the ground, and Fran just goes, "Welcome to the NFL, son." Something like that's going in there. All the John Madden quotes, and I'm going to steal Duncan Fisher's quotes from BattleTech from the MechWarrior 4 series. So, yeah.
What about from Dodgeball? If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
That's right.
Okay. And how can they find you on the wild interwebs?
I have a website. It is www.michaellavoice.com. That's all one word, michaellavoice.com. You can also find me on Facebook at that Michael LaVoice. And also that is my Twitter handle. I don't know what we call that place anymore. But I'm on there too. And of course, you'll find me sneaking around various Discord servers at Athon and 3 Ravens.
Outstanding. All right, Mr. J. Barnson.
All right. Well, I am currently starting on the 4th book in the Vanish series, which is Portal Fantasy about people vanish without a trace, and from time to time they appear somewhere else. Where unfortunately it happens often enough that in the classic John Carter and Japanese isekai fashion, they have special abilities, and the natives are used to it, and they pretty much spawn camp us as we arrive, and immediately enslave us and do terrible things to us. So, and it's also a great excuse for me to get some famous unexplained disappearances, people like Amelia Earhart and D.B. Cooper into a fantasy world. So anyway,
we did make it.
It's called, the first book is Queen of Monsters, and it's called The Vanished.
Oh man, that's awesome.
And where can they find you online?
You can find me at jbarnson.com. Yes, terribly original. Also on Twitter. If you look for me, or I'll also go by the term, or the call sign, I want to say Rampant Coyote. So
I'm sure there's a creature feature story in there somewhere. All right, and last but not least,
Trickster Gods again.
Yep.
Yeah, we have Miss Jana S. Brown, sometimes known as Jenna Ray, sometimes known as Jade Lynn, sometimes known as Chuck Tingo.
Hey, no telling. Shh.
Oh crap! I signed an NDA on that too.
Yeah, dang it.
Oh, you're getting sued, bro.
You behave now. Or at least don't, because it's more fun.
You're getting heard from her attorney.
Darling.
Yeah, Jan S. Brown just finished a book on self-editing right in time for NaNoWriMo. So those who are, working on novels can learn how to then edit them so that their editors don't have to hurt them. So that's going out in October. Then I have a fantasy trilogy that I'll finish the 3rd book. And I'm dabbling in some short stories for 3 Ravens. They've got a Heathens and Heroes coming up that I've got a sketch for, and one for their military sci-fi, because that's another one of my favorite genres. So I'm poking at a few things around the edges there and see if we can get those in there. You can find me at www.opalkingdompress.com. All of me, myself, and I live there. On the socials, if it's Jenna Ray or Jana S. Brown Writes, it's probably me. You can also find Jadelyn Asher, but guys, unless you're into the smoochy stuff, Jadelyn's all romance all the time, guys. So if that's what you want, come on over. And if not, stick with Jenna Ray, where we destroy things with, big magic and lots of swords.
Which one of you is a fan of Arthurian legend and lore? Jenna or Jenna?
Both, but mostly Jenna.
I'm going to make her a comic book writer.
Do it. It makes me very happy.
Since we're recording this for Spooktober, this is where I remind you that I have a recently released novella, and it's just came out in audiobook by the lovely Mr. Talented Garrett Michael Brown, called Savage Skies, which is space marine horror. So you should check that out. And this is airing on October 23rd. So you still have 8 days left. Yes, 8 days. I can count people left to back Bengali episode 3. And if you spend the right amount of cash, you can get books 1 and 2 in your greedy little paws.
And Garrett Michael Brown's worth the listen too. He's excellent. Love that guy.
He did the Sleigh Bells Ring anthology for us as well for the audio.
Oh, sweet.
He is talented. And hold on, Stabby. Let me put you on the full screen. Stabby is going to show you, if you're watching, the just in Bengali I guess, skateboard deck they're called?
It's a skateboard deck. It's a Phantom Hawk, my guy, but I can put Bengali on there for you. And Bengali, the campaign ends on the 20th, which is no big deal because I'm going to leave it as a shop after the campaign ends. So by the time you hear this and you get a little tickle in your wallet to go spend some hard-earned money on an independent comic book artist with some awesome stories, you can still hop on there and get your Bengali love.
Okay, so this is when does it end? I thought it was on the 31st.
Ends on the 20th because I started.
Okay, so this will have already ended, but you can still get the comics. It's not too late.
Yeah, it'll be ongoing. It'll be as a storefront.
It's a creature feature.
It's a creature feature.
It's a creature feature.
Yes.
Yes. Add one thing, Mr. LaVoice.
Okay. My first series from Athon, Galaxy's Most Wanted, is releasing December 5th. So book one of that series comes out December 5th.
You can come back on and talk about it closer to launch day.
Sweet. Oh, yeah.
All right. And this is the one point. She's not here for us to sing her praises, but Maddie Stabby Jr., the mini-me, she is helping us make a Discord because you, dear listener, asked for one where you can engage if you do not want to participate in all things Zuckerberg. So she is working on setting it up. There will be sort of levels for the authors among us that might want to come on and sort of some of the planning angles. And then there will be some for just engagement from the listeners and viewers. You can suggest topics there. We've got to come up with rules. Apparently my rule for life, which is just don't be a dick, is not specific enough. So we've got to come up.
She's going to make me an admin, and that's my rule. So I think that's going to be the rule.
I mean, I'm okay with that rule. Don't be a dick and stay apolitical, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Have fun.
Yes, have fun. That should be a rule too. Well,
that's rule number one. Have fun. Rule number.
But if you're having fun by breaking the other rules, then don't have fun.
That's rule 3. By breaking the rules, refer to rule
6.
1, subparagraph A.
Don't worry, we'll consult our lawyers.
Man, this guy,
don't be a dick.
Man, this became a third job. Damn it! I hate it when we do this.
All right. So with that being said, once we have the group, the group up and running, where we've got all the rules and the roles set. And we're doing that around Maddie's college schedule. Once all of that is done, we will link it to the link tree where you can find us. But before I do that, and I tell you how you can stalk us, but you probably already know anyway, this is the point where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books and movies. So do your part, people. With that being said, you can find us on our link tree, linktr.ee, linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we've got our BitChute, our Rumble, our Twitters, our emails, the Stabby Stab connection of her Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email. She's got all the things. I don't know. It's all linked in the link tree, so we don't have to know. You can find us on our
hate mail. Send it my way.
That's right. Send her the hate mail. You can find us on our Facebook group where you can interact more directly if you haven't got into the Discord yet at facebook.com/groups/Blasters and Blades podcast. I really need to link that to the link tree too. You can follow us on the tree. It's all going on the tree. You can find us on our website at anchor.fm/Blasters and Blades. Again, anchor.fm/Blasters and Blades, where for as little as 99 cents a month, you can help keep the lights on. These episodes are not free to produce, and every penny helps. And if you want to support the show more directly, we have a buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley, where you can support the show as well. I promise if you put in the comment section that it's for the podcast, I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink the coffee brand coffee until the Java rolls out of their eyeballs and crystallizes in their tears. And if you want to support us, it'll be in the show notes, but if you want to support us by purchasing said coffee brand coffee, it's delicious. We have been raving about it. I'm still hooked on the s'mores. The link is in the show notes, and the code that gets you the discount, even if you don't click the link, is podcast grunts. You know why? Because we like to keep things simple, because we were grunts. So with that being said, thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-hosts, malevolent guests, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And I think we're going to give them a complex because we say at the same time, but we've started adding 3 episodes a week instead of just 2. Now we're doing Wednesdays. I think we're going to confuse them. They're going to get a complex, Nick.
We need lives.
We're going to try some of that.
My life. This is cool. I like this. I like doing podcasts.
Pretty good.
Oh, I thought you said we need to go live. I'm like, oh, we'll try that too. You mean
Oh,
live?
yeah. We definitely did. We talked about this. What were we talking about? We said we were going to go live.
On the
Friday
13th.
Live.
episode. Yeah.
On Friday the 13th, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we'll
That's
try
a
not to look
perfect time.
stupid. We'll try not to look
We'll
stupid. 'cause
rehearse,
we're glad
kind
you-
of, maybe. I don't know.
When you said we need lives, I was thinking like, of course we don't have lives. We've got kids. But,
Yeah,
you know, that works too.
I rolled
Dude,
a
I'm
crit
down to
one, so-
1. My middle boy is now at Fort Lost in the Woods. Got a call from him last night.
Oh, my Lord. What's his MOS?
Oh, he's going to be an MP.
Oh, 95.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, nobody likes him.
You heard the collective. Oh, man.
But he has a plan.
B
He has a
stands for
plan.
Blue Falcon.
He's going to do his 5 years, then he's going to get out and be an actual civilian law enforcement officer.
Border Patrol's hiring. No college. 6-figure salary.
There you go, people. Take notes. All right. And with that being said, thank you. We appreciate you guys coming on. We'll see you again next time. And this is where I hit the end, and we have that awkward